Imagine waking up one morning to the news that a missile launched from over 1,000 miles away has just struck a target with pinpoint accuracy. No warning, no interception, just impact. That is not a hypothetical. That is the reality that Israel, Saudi Arabia, and American military commanders have been quietly dreading for decades. And the country behind that capability is Iran. Now, most people hear Iran and think sanctions, nuclear deal, maybe protests. But very few people stop to ask the question that actually keeps Pentagon officials up at night. How did a country under crushing economic sanctions, isolated from Western technology, cut off from global arms markets, somehow build the most dangerous, the most sophisticated, and the most expansive missile program in the entire Middle East? Not North Korea, not Pakistan, not even Saudi Arabia with all its oil money and American weapons. Iran. And here's the part that will genuinely surprise you. They did not buy this capability. They built it. From almost nothing, over 40 years, while the whole world was watching, and most of us were not paying attention. So today, we are going inside that story. We are going to trace how Iran went from a country that could barely defend its own cities during the 1980s war with Iraq to a nation that can now credibly threaten targets across a 2,000-mile radius. We will look at the technology, the strategy, the secret programs, the proxy networks, and what all of this actually means for you, for the United States, and for the future of the Middle East. Stay with me, because this story is far more complicated, far more dangerous, and far more fascinating than anything you have seen in a headline. To understand where Iran is today, you have to go back to a war that most Americans have largely forgotten, the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988. 8 years of absolute carnage. Saddam Hussein, backed by the United States, Saudi Arabia, and several European nations, launched a full-scale invasion of Iran just 1 year after the Islamic Revolution, and Iran was completely unprepared. The new revolutionary government had just expelled or executed most of the Shah's military leadership. The armed forces were in chaos. The country had no reliable air force, no functioning logistics chain, and almost no missile capability whatsoever. Iraq, on the other hand, had Soviet-supplied Scud missiles, and Saddam used them without mercy. He fired Scud missiles directly into Iranian cities, Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, civilian neighborhoods, schools, hospitals. This became known as the War of the Cities, and it was psychologically devastating. Hundreds of thousands of Iranian civilians lived in terror, knowing that at any moment a missile could come screaming out of the sky with no warning and no defense. Iran had nothing to fire back, nothing comparable. They scrambled to acquire whatever they could, purchasing a small number of Scud missiles from Libya and Syria, but it was not enough. It was humiliating, and it was unforgettable. That experience burned itself into the institutional memory of the Islamic Republic. The lesson was simple, brutal, and absolutely clear. If you cannot strike your enemy's cities, your enemy will not fear you. If your enemy does not fear you, you are nothing. The moment the war ended in 1988, Iran's leadership made a decision that would reshape the Middle East. They were never, ever going to be in that position again. The missile program would become a national priority, not a side project, not a backup plan, the core of Iranian military strategy. Now, building a missile program from scratch is not like building a factory or training an army. Ballistic missiles require incredibly precise engineering, advanced metallurgy, specialized fuel chemistry, guidance systems, and manufacturing tolerances that most countries in the world simply cannot achieve.
You need knowledge, you need technology, and if you are Iran in the late 1980s, under international pressure and arms embargoes, you need partners who are willing to help you break the rules. Iran found 3 of them, and those 3 relationships explain almost everything about what Iran has today. The first was China. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, China was willing to transfer significant missile technology to Iran. Chinese engineers helped Iran develop its first domestically produced short-range ballistic missiles, including early versions of what would become the Shahab series. China also provided crucial materials and manufacturing equipment before international pressure eventually caused Beijing to scale back its cooperation. But the foundation had been laid. The second partner was North Korea. This is the relationship that most directly shaped Iran's medium and long-range missile capability. North Korea had developed its own version of the Scud missile, extended its range, and was willing to sell both the hardware and the knowledge. Iran purchased complete missile systems from Pyongyang, reverse-engineered them, improved them, and then went further. The 2 countries developed a remarkably deep technical partnership, sharing test data, engineering expertise, and design concepts. Some analysts believe this cooperation continues to this day, though both governments deny it. The third source was Russia, not officially, not through government channels, but through a network of Russian scientists, engineers, and technical specialists who, after the Soviet collapse in 1991, found themselves suddenly unemployed, underpaid, and in some cases, willing to share what they knew. Iran was an enthusiastic customer. This influx of post-Soviet expertise gave Iranian engineers access to knowledge about advanced guidance systems, re-entry vehicles, and propulsion technology that would have taken decades to develop independently. By the mid-1990s, Iran had the seeds of something real, something that was growing quietly beneath the surface. Let's talk about what Iran actually built, because I think most people have no idea how vast and how varied this arsenal actually is. At the foundation, Iran has a massive inventory of short-range ballistic missiles. These are weapons with ranges from roughly 300 to 700 kilometers, and they exist in extraordinary numbers. Iran has produced these in such quantities that even if a significant portion were destroyed in a first strike, enough would survive to inflict devastating damage on targets throughout the region. Israel, the Gulf states, and American bases in Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar all fall within this range. Moving up, Iran developed the Shahab 3, a medium-range ballistic missile with a range of around 1,300 kilometers. When it was first tested in 1998, it sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. Suddenly, Israel, a country that had long assumed it was beyond Iranian range, was not, and the Shahab 3 was just the beginning. Iran continued improving its medium-range arsenal, eventually developing the Ghadar and the Emad, both variants with improved accuracy and extended range. The Emad in particular represented a major breakthrough because it featured a maneuvering re-entry vehicle, meaning it could adjust its trajectory as it fell, making it significantly harder to intercept. This is not simple technology. Most countries cannot do this.
Then came the Sanctions. This is where things get truly significant. The Sanctions is a 2-stage solid-fuel ballistic missile with a range of approximately 2,000 to 2,500 kilometers. The fuel type matters enormously. Liquid fuel missiles, like early Shahab variants, need time to fuel before launch. They can be spotted on satellite imagery. They can be targeted before they fire. Solid fuel missiles are different. They are stored ready to launch. They can be deployed quickly. They are much, much harder to eliminate in a preemptive strike. The development of the Sanctions told the world something important. Iran was not just building missiles. Iran was building missiles that could survive an attempt to destroy them. But missiles are only part of the story.
because Iran did something that no other country in the Middle East has done to the same extent. They built a network. Starting in the 1990s and accelerating through the 2000s, Iran began systematically transferring missile technology and training to its regional proxy forces. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia militia groups in Iraq and Syria. The Iranians called this network the Axis of Resistance. American and Israeli officials called it something less flattering. The strategic logic was brilliant in a cold, calculating way. If Iran transfers the capability to fire rockets and missiles to groups surrounding its enemies, those enemies are now facing threats from multiple directions simultaneously. Israel, for example, now has to worry about missiles from Lebanon in the north, from Gaza in the southwest, from Syria in the northeast, and from Yemen in the south. American bases in the region face threats from Iraq, Syria, and Yemen simultaneously. This is called the multi-front problem, and it is a nightmare for military planners. You cannot defend against everything at once. You cannot destroy all of it with a first strike. The missiles are hidden in tunnels, in civilian areas, in caves, in converted homes. They are dispersed, they are concealed, and they are everywhere. Hezbollah alone is estimated to have well over 150,000 rockets and missiles in Lebanon. That number is not a typo. 150,000. Some of these are simple, unguided rockets, but an increasing proportion are precision-guided missiles, capable of hitting specific buildings within a city. Iran spent decades and billions of dollars building this capability into a neighbor of Israel. The entire northern border of Israel is now effectively covered by this threat. Now I want to talk about one program that does not get nearly enough attention in mainstream media, and that is Iran's ballistic missile program, specifically designed to threaten and potentially defeat American missile defense systems. Because here is something the United States invested heavily in: the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, known as THAAD, the Patriot missile system. These are sophisticated, extremely expensive defense platforms designed to intercept incoming ballistic missiles, and they work, to a point. Iran has spent years studying these systems. They have analyzed their capabilities, their limitations, their radar signatures, and their known failure modes, and they have developed countermeasures. The maneuvering re-entry vehicles I mentioned earlier, salvo firing, meaning launching multiple missiles simultaneously to overwhelm a defense battery, the development of decoys that fly alongside real warheads and confuse intercept systems, short flight time trajectories designed to minimize the window for interception, multiple simultaneous attack vectors. In April of 2024, Iran launched over 300 drones and missiles directly at Israel in a single night. It was the first direct Iranian attack on Israeli territory in history. Most were intercepted by a combination of Israeli, American, British, and Jordanian air defenses. But here is what most media coverage missed. That attack was not designed to destroy Israel. It was designed to map Israel's defenses, to see what worked, what was intercepted, what got through, and how the defense systems responded under real operational conditions. Think about that for a moment. Iran was willing to fire 300 weapons in a single night, knowing most would be shot down, just to gather intelligence on how Israel defends itself. That is the strategic patience of a program that has been planning not for next month, but for the next decade. Let's address the nuclear question directly, because you cannot talk about Iran's missile program without talking about nuclear weapons. The missiles and the nuclear program are inseparable in terms of what makes them collectively terrifying. The official position of the United States intelligence community is that Iran has not yet made a decision to build a nuclear weapon, but that Iran's technical capabilities now make it a so-called nuclear threshold state. This means Iran has the enrichment infrastructure, the technical knowledge, and potentially enough enriched uranium to produce a nuclear device within weeks or months if its leadership decided to do so. And here's why the missiles matter so much in this context. A nuclear weapon without a reliable delivery system is just a very expensive bomb. You cannot threaten Israel with a weapon that you cannot deliver. You cannot deter the United States without a credible means of retaliation. The missiles are the delivery system. The missiles are what turn a hypothetical nuclear capability into a strategic deterrent. The United States and its allies understand this completely. It is the central reason why the missile program has been treated as seriously as the nuclear program itself, sometimes more so in recent years. Because a nuclear weapon is only as dangerous as your ability to use it or to make your enemies believe you will use it. Whether Iran ever crosses the nuclear threshold remains one of the most consequential questions in global security. But what is not a question is that if that day comes, the missiles will be ready. I want to take a moment to talk about something that often gets overlooked: the domestic politics inside Iran that drive this program forward. The missile program is not just a military asset, it's a political symbol. When Iran test fires a new missile and releases video of it soaring over desert terrain, that footage is broadcast on state television to an ordinary Iranian audience. It is used to tell ordinary Iranians something very specific. Your government is strong. Your enemies fear you. The sacrifices of the revolution were not in vain. In a country where the economy has been strangled by sanctions, where inflation has destroyed purchasing power, where young people face unemployment and limited opportunity, the missile program is one of the few areas where the government can claim genuine, unambiguous success, and that makes it extraordinarily difficult to negotiate away. Any Iranian leader who agreed to dismantle the missile program in exchange for sanctions relief would face a devastating domestic political backlash. The Revolutionary Guards, who control the program, would never accept it. The hardline establishment would portray it as surrender. It would be political suicide. This is part of why American and European attempts to include the missile program in nuclear negotiations have consistently failed. For Iran's leadership, the missiles are not a bargaining chip. They are the foundation of the entire security strategy. They are non-negotiable. And understanding that changes how you think about what is and what is not possible diplomatically.
Let's talk about a specific moment that illustrated just how capable and how willing Iran is to use this program operationally. Because this is not theoretical. These missiles have been fired at real targets with real consequences. January 8, 2020, just days after the United States killed General Qasem Soleimani, the most powerful military commander in Iran and the architect of much of the proxy network strategy, Iran launched a ballistic missile strike directly against two American military bases in Iraq, Al-Assad Air Base and Erbil. Iran fired 16 ballistic missiles in that strike. 15 hit their targets. 1 failed to launch. The accuracy was remarkable. The missiles hit specific facilities, specific hardened aircraft shelters, specific areas of the base. These were not spray and pray weapons. These were precision strikes. The United States officially reported no American fatalities, though over 100 service members were later diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries. But here is what that strike demonstrated. Iran had the ability to conduct a coordinated, deliberate, precision ballistic missile attack against American military positions, in the open, with forewarning, and still hit what they were aiming at. Think about what that means for a moment. The most powerful military in human history has bases in the Middle East, and Iran demonstrated the ability to reach out and touch those bases with conventional ballistic missiles from its own territory over 1,000 kilometers away. That is a new strategic reality,
and it cannot be undone. Now, where does this program go from here? Because the trajectory over the past 40 years has been consistently in one direction: forward, faster, farther, more accurate, more survivable. Iran has made significant investments in what military analysts call anti-access and area denial capabilities. The idea is to make it so costly and so dangerous for the United States military to operate in or near the Persian Gulf that American military planners have to fundamentally reconsider how they would fight a war with Iran. American aircraft carriers, for decades the symbol of overwhelming American power projection, are now genuinely threatened by Iranian anti-ship ballistic missiles. Iran has developed the Khalij Fars and the Hormuz, ballistic missiles specifically designed to hit moving ships at sea. This is extraordinarily difficult to do. The guidance requirements alone are extraordinary, but Iran has demonstrated the capability. And when you consider that the Persian Gulf is a narrow, enclosed body of water where aircraft carriers have limited room to maneuver, this becomes a serious operational problem. Iran has also invested heavily in cruise missiles. The SOMAR, based on Soviet cruise missile technology, and the Hoveze, a more advanced, domestically developed variant, give Iran the ability to fly low, evade radar, and strike at long ranges. Combined with ballistic missiles that come in on high, steep trajectories, this creates a layered, multi-axis threat that is far more difficult to defend against than any single type of weapon. And then there are the drones. The Shade 136, the weapon that Iran began supplying to Russia for use in Ukraine in 2022, is a cheap, slow, one-way attack drone that Iran produces in the thousands. It costs a fraction of what an air defense missile costs to intercept it, which creates what analysts call a cost exchange problem. If Iran or its proxies can fire 20 drones for the price of one interceptor missile, the math of air defense becomes very difficult, very quickly. I want to step back and give you the strategic picture, because all of these individual programs, the ballistic missiles, the cruise missiles, the drones, the proxy networks, the anti-ship weapons, they are not separate things. They are pieces of a single, coherent, integrated strategy. Iran's strategy can be summarized in a few sentences. Deter Iran from attacking the United States by making the cost of war unacceptably high. Deter Israel from a preemptive strike by threatening overwhelming retaliation from multiple directions simultaneously. Maintain the ability to close the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of global oil supply passes, as an economic weapon, and gradually build influence across the region through the proxy network, expanding Iran's strategic depth without requiring Iranian territory to be put at risk. It is, in a cold, analytical sense, a sophisticated strategy. It is built around the core insight that Iran cannot win a conventional military confrontation with the United States. It does not have the Air Force, the Navy, or the conventional ground forces to go toe-to-toe with American military power, but it does not need to win that war. It needs to make starting that war too costly to consider, and it has built its missile program specifically to serve that purpose. General Kenneth McKenzie, the former commander of U.S. Central Command, which oversees American military operations across the Middle East, testified before Congress in 2021 that the Iranian missile threat was the greatest military challenge his command faced. Not terrorism, not ISIS, not any other adversary, Iran's missiles. That assessment came from the person most responsible for American planning in the region, and we should take it seriously. So what does all of this mean for the United States? What does it mean for American policy, American security, American interests in the Middle East? First, it means that military options against Iran are significantly more costly and more complicated than they were 20 years ago. Any American or Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear facilities would almost certainly be met with a massive missile response, not necessarily an attempt to win a war, but an attempt to inflict enough pain that the political cost of continuing the military campaign becomes too high. American bases across the region, Israeli cities, Gulf oil infrastructure, commercial shipping in the Persian Gulf, these are all on the target list.
Second, it means that the proxy network creates a permanent background level of instability that occasionally flares into serious conflict. We saw this with Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping that disrupted global commerce. We see it periodically in Gaza and Lebanon. These flare-ups are costly, dangerous, and deeply connected to Iranian capability and Iranian decision-making, even when Iran maintains plausible deniability. Third, and perhaps most importantly for long-term American policy, it means that a purely military solution to the Iranian challenge is not realistically achievable. You cannot bomb away 40 years of knowledge, expertise, dispersed infrastructure, and institutional commitment. Even a massive military campaign against Iran's missile program would not eliminate it. It would set it back. Iran would rebuild. The knowledge is already dispersed across hundreds of facilities, thousands of engineers, and a generation of scientists who have made this their life's work. The fundamental challenge is this. Iran built this program precisely because it concluded that the United States would always have conventional military superiority, and that the only way to survive in a region where America was deeply involved was to make itself too costly to attack. The missile program is, in Iranian strategic thinking, an existential insurance policy. And that understanding shapes everything about what can and cannot be achieved through pressure, negotiation, or force. There is a younger generation of Iranian engineers and scientists who have grown up inside this program. They were children during the War of the Cities. They were young adults during the Shahab-3 tests. They came of age professionally during the development of precision guidance systems and solid-fuel rockets. For them, this is not ideology. It is engineering. It is national pride. It is their career. When Iranian state media shows the launch of a new missile, the footage often includes shots of young men and women in lab coats, watching screens, celebrating a successful test. These are real people with real careers and real expertise, embedded in a program that has become self-sustaining in a way that transcends any single political leadership. Even if you could imagine a scenario where Iran's political leadership negotiated away its missile program, the question of what happens to the human knowledge and the industrial infrastructure involved is extraordinarily complex. This is not a program that disappears with a signature on a piece of paper. That is the deeper challenge. That is why the missile program is, in some fundamental sense, a permanent feature of the Middle Eastern strategic landscape. Not because Iranians are inherently aggressive or inherently hostile to the West, but because a state that made a decision 4 decades ago to build its security around a capability it developed itself with its own people in its own country is not going to simply give that up. We have covered a great deal of ground today, from the War of the Cities to the proxy networks, from Chinese technology transfers to maneuvering re-entry vehicles, from the killing of Soleimani to the April 2024 attack on Israel, from the nuclear threshold question to the strategic logic of deterrence. Let me give you the big picture. Iran built the most dangerous missile program in the Middle East because it had no choice. It was attacked, it was humiliated, it was left alone to defend itself, and it responded by building something that no sanction, no embargo, no diplomatic pressure has been able to stop.
That program now gives Iran the ability to credibly threaten every American base in the region, every major city in Israel, and most of the Gulf states. It has been extended through the proxy network to create threats on multiple fronts simultaneously. It has been designed to survive preemptive strikes, overwhelm air defenses, and impose costs high enough to deter any adversary from starting a war. Is Iran winning the long game in the Middle East? That is genuinely debatable. Its economy is suffering, its population is restless, its regional ambitions have created enormous tensions and costs. But in the specific domain of military deterrence and the ability to threaten its adversaries with serious harm, Iran has absolutely achieved what it set out to do after 1988. The country that had no missiles to fire when Saddam's Scuds were killing its civilians now sits at the center of a missile network that spans the entire region. That transformation over 40 years, driven by strategy and secrecy and a stubborn refusal to accept vulnerability, is one of the most consequential and most underappreciated stories in modern geopolitics. The missiles are real, the capability is real, and the decisions that will be made about how to respond to that capability over the next decade will shape the world that all of us live in.